All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm just going to talk about my portfolio, how I have it set up between my brokerage account, my Roth, my IRA, and the funds that I use. So now I am within Fidelity, and I choose to use the zero expense ratio funds. This means that they don't charge you any expenses for using them, and there's no minimums, and you can just hold them long term. So we're going to break down 3 out of 4 of these I use. And the fourth one I'm going to give you at the end of the video just so you can see, because I like a little bit of extra risk and I want the growth potential. So let's get into it. Let's break down the portfolio. And it's very simple, and this is how most retirement accounts should be. All right, so the first account we're looking at is the Roth IRA. Within the Roth IRA, you will notice that my account is 100% FZROX. So let's get into it. Let's break it down, what it is and why I chose it. All right, so this is FZROX. This is a total market index fund. What that means is that it invests over a broad amount of companies. So you get 3,000 to 4,000 companies that it's going to invest in to give you a nice broad diversification. It costs $15.82, and year to date has been a very good year. It's up 18%. Just giving the quick snapshot before we get into the details, you can see that the returns are 3 out of 5 for Fidelity. The expenses are low because there are none. And as you can see, the 1 year returns 15%, over 3 years 9%. But just looking at the life, we're making about 10% a year investing in this. So if you had $100,000 at the end of the first year, you're going to have about $110,000. So this is definitely a nice solid fund to invest long term in, but let's look at it in detail to find out why. All right, so for FZROX, the first thing I like to look at is composition. So what is this fund made up of? We have 26% in technology, 13% in financials, healthcare 12%, and the list goes on and on. The next thing I like to look at is which market cap are we in? So this is large market cap for the FZROX. So only companies that have a market value greater than 10 billion will qualify for this fund, which I like. So they have to be long-standing companies. The next is domestic equities, 99%. As you can see, FZROX is 100% United States companies, which is what I'm looking for when I'm investing. So now it shows you top 10 holdings. You can see that FZROX, out of the top 10 holdings, 26% is invested in Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Google, Tesla, and Meta. 2,688 companies. So you almost have 2,700 companies that FZROX is investing in. But you just have to be aware that 26% makes up just Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Google, Tesla, and Meta. So if you own these individual stocks, keep that in mind when you're trying to diversify your portfolio, because you might have already 5% of your portfolio in an individual Apple stock. So you might not need as much invested in a company like this. So for FZROX, let's focus on fees and distributions. On expenses and fees, you can see clearly that there are no fees associated with this fund. That means that everything you put in is going into this fund to invest long term, which is excellent. So you don't have to worry about anything chipping away at your value long term. Next is dividend history, and you can see this is the caveat with these funds. You only get paid out your dividend at the end of the year. Notice the date, how it's December 16th, 2022, December 3rd, December 4th, December 13th. One time per year you're getting it. So if you're investing long term, don't expect your dividends until December of the end of the year. And what I like to see is focus on 2019. We're at 0.16, then 0.17. It's been going up 1 penny, now 3 pennies as time has increased. So as the years go by, we're seeing that we are getting dividends, but you're only getting per share 21 cents. So if you owe, let's say you had 1 share, you would get 21 cents. So the more shares you have, the more you'll get back. And then capital gains history as well is paid out in December, as you can see. December 14th, December 28th, the 13th, and the 3rd. Notice how in 2020 there was no capital gains history. So that's something that I just noticed. Something to keep an eye on. But that was during COVID, so I wonder if that had something to do with it. But definitely good to pay attention to that. And then moving forward, this just gives you the pricing range from it. You can see that the minimums, there's no initial investment. There's no minimum you need. You can just keep buying $5, $10 here and there every week, every 2 weeks, every month. And the price range for FZROX is $12 to $16. All right, so that sums up my Roth, FZROX, Total Market Index Fund. Now let's break down the taxable fund. All right, so this is my taxable fund. So this is a brokerage account that you have to pay taxes on any dividends if you buy and sell within that year. And you will see that the percentage of my account is up here. I have almost 41% in the S&P 500, which we'll get into what this fund is. Almost 42% in a growth fund. And then in my dividend ETF, about 17%. Now let's break them down and go into each three of these to show you why I'm picking them and I'm investing them long term. So FNILX is the first one that we were looking at, and this invests in the S&P 500. Now this is a Fidelity offered, zero expenses, zero transaction fees, no expense at all. This is why I picked them, and I'm holding them long term. Year to date, it's up almost 20%. And more importantly, the life is about 11% every single year you're making on the S&P 500. This is the cornerstone of my holdings. And I'm going to get into just the composition so you can see what the S&P 500 consists of, because I think this is a fund that should be in everybody's portfolio, especially for the long term. So the S&P 500 FNILX basically has a mix of technology almost at 30%, healthcare at 13%. And basically, as you go through this, you can see financials, 12%. It's pretty even throughout the board. And then the growth and the blend is just large cap marketization. All that means is that the values of each company are greater than 10 billion, which was the same as FZROX. Now, the key difference is that the asset allocations are a little bit more heavier in the S&P 500. So you have almost 30% is invested within Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Google, Tesla, and Meta. And you can see that in this fund, it's specifically only United States companies. And overall, just keep in mind, the S&P 500 is only 515 holdings, which I think is important to note compared to the FZROX. The total market was almost 3,000. The S&P 500 is more concentrated with just 500 companies. So the next fund is FSPGX, and I'm going to put a little blurb on top. You can click on the blurb and it'll explain this large cap growth fund in more detail, because I made a personal video on them because this is a core holding of my taxable brokerage account, just so you can get a deeper look. But what I want you to notice is take a look at the top 10 holdings. The top 10 holdings of this company, or I should say index fund, 50% of the portfolio is within Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Google, Tesla, all the growth companies. So this is definitely something that you need to look into, because it is ultra aggressive, and the swings, it's not for the faint of heart because it goes up and down a lot. The last ETF that's in my taxable brokerage account is SCHD. It's a Schwab US Dividend ETF. So let's quickly get into it and break down the composition of it. So SCHD is a little different in that it focuses on dividend companies that have been around that produce dividends. There's only a total of 104 companies, and please refer to the video on the top right screen right here, because I made a personal video about SCHD that I think you're going to like. But just to break it down, it's all about companies that are in North America. And it's basically your Home Depots, your Pepsis, your Cisco, your Coca-Cola, your Chevron, just to name a few. And it's super reliable, gives you dividends each year, and it's just an excellent fund. But I want you to click on my other video for SCHD, check it out. It's definitely useful. It'll help you out. All right, so now that we got through the taxable account, the Roth account, now I have my fun account, which is my Fidelity Crypto, where I monthly just make purchases in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And Fidelity also offers this where you can buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I'm going to set it and forget it kind of, trade for this. I'm just holding it for 30 years. I'm going to continue to dollar cost average. You can check out my Bitcoin portfolio. I'm always posting it every month, just updates on how it's doing and the daily buys as well. But I want to give you a good recap. All right, so last but not least, I hold this in my other IRA, is the Fidelity Zero Extended Market Index Fund. What this is we're going to break it down, but it goes into the smaller cap and mid cap companies, so it doesn't have that greater than 10 billion in assets, which is important. So you know you're getting a different type of diversification. So what I want you to see with FZIPX is that look at the chart here. It's only in small and mid cap companies, and the companies that qualify for this index fund is going to be below $2 billion. So this is going to eliminate any companies in FZROX, the S&P 500, the total market index fund. It's only going to include companies that are below that $2 billion mark. So this gives you more diversification in companies that are up and coming. The top 10 holdings only make up 2.87% of this total portfolio, so your risk is much lower, and it holds about 2,200 holdings. So that gives you a good diversification in those smaller and mid-cap companies, because it's almost impossible to pick companies that are going to do well. So even little things like Rivian that you notice or Coinbase, it's only like 0.3%. So that gives you good diversification and you're not too high risk in one asset allocation. And all of the companies are all in US, which I like to see. All right, guys, so that wraps up the video. This is my channel, Trading Simplified. I like to keep my retirement accounts and my brokerage accounts very simple. Don't overcomplicate it, nice and easy. What I wanted to show you was, you can see right here, I have the video on FSPGX, the Fidelity Growth Fund, in case you want to look into that if you missed the link. And then also the SCHD video I have right here for you to check out too, that breaks it down. So there's a lot of goodies in this. Check out my playlists. Check out the Fidelity Crypto portfolio, my trading P&L for day trades, my long-term investments. Take a look, I got a lot to offer. Just want to help out any way I can. And if you feel like you learned something, please like and subscribe to the channel.